as always, a very good morning, good evening, good afternoon to you, wherever you might be in the world. Um, Please do leave a comment. I'd be interested to know where the demographic or which part of the world that you live in. Um, just by the by, as I mention it, if you're a returning visitor, I would say welcome back and thank you very much for returning. If you're new to the channel, you probably won't be aware until I tell you. I put chapter timings in the description of all the videos, and that is so that because time is a premium for everyone, so that you can just jump to the area of interest for you and you don't have to sit through the whole lot of it, because a lot of people aren't interested in everything, shall we say. The other thing is too, fair warning, I've got a dog. He can make a bit of background noise at any given time. At the moment he's being quiet, so I'll do the make hay while the sun shines. I'm not a geologist. I just like crystals. I've been around them for a long time. Initially, I started this playlist because I don't sell them, but my intention actually is to sell them again to people, but to try and sell, reasonable priced product, not overinflated prices, and also to let people know exactly what they're buying. So that's all part of the agenda these days. But you can't see it online at the moment anyway, what I'm selling or what I'm collecting and adding with the intention to sell. Anyway, I've just run off on a waffle again. That's another reason why I do timing chapters, because I can waffle and go on a tangent, and it just, not everybody wants to sit through a waffle, bottom line. But anyway, just a reminder, if you do hear or if I'm able to give you some content that you're interested in or that you like, then please, help me out and just give me a little bit of a like there, because not only does it help the channel, whatever it's called, logistics, but it actually helps to keep me motivated to continue to produce content for people that might be helpful to them. Can't think of anything else except to say, look, thank you for being part of my journey. Let's jump in with the information that I can share with you today, which of course is my priority, and extend that invitation to you guys that if you've got experience with a crystal, please, by all means, make a comment. Let us know what your experiences are, particularly when it's a crystal that I actually haven't worked with, or which is going to be a new addition to my collection. It just helps to, I suppose, give people a greater insight into how they can use them from a metaphysical perspective, because that's what this channel is really about, is looking at the metaphysical properties and attributes, and in this case of crystals. So what we're talking about today is obviously what we call crocodile rock is one of the names, and I'm going to call it Kambaba Jasper, but it's known by another, a whole range of them, and where it's Kambaba or Kambamba. Sometimes it's called green stromalite jasper. As I mentioned before, it's also called crocodile rock or crocodile jasper. And of course, you can clearly see, I would imagine, why it's called that when we look at this image here. Now, speaking of the image, I've got to credit Geology Science for this one, which is a website, and it also has really good information about crystals. When I haven't personally used a crystal, a lot of the time I will do research and add other people's experiences to these videos. Other times I have a method of establishing what the properties, the healing properties are for a particular crystal, and it might not be something that's online, or you might not see it represented anywhere else when you're doing your research. And I'll talk about how I do that in a moment, besides the fact that I do have psychic abilities, highly developed intuitive ones, but I also have a logical and rational approach to it. Anyway, you can see when you look at this here, you can understand why it's called crocodile rock. It really looks like the skin of a crocodile. You've got the black swirling and the circles, and then you've got this green background to it. And if you've been around crocodiles or actually seen them, you know that they tend to have that skin look to them. Anyway, I will definitely be looking to get some for my collection. I can't actually remember if I've ordered it yet, but if I haven't, I'll be ordering it in the near future. So for those people that are new to the channel, I don't personally place a great significance on the Zodiac influence or benefits of specific crystals. To me, if you feel drawn to a crystal, in the knowledge that being drawn to a crystal is different to I want a crystal, then you go for it. Doesn't matter what your star sign is. And personally, I think that when people make these associations with the zodiac, they're just looking at what the actual inherent healing properties are, and star signs will, or the zodiac influences can create vulnerabilities. Like we all associate, for example, Aries is a fire sign, that they might be a little bit too direct for people lacking in sensitivity when it comes to the communication, or a little bit feisty and reactive. I mean, that's examples. When it comes to the water signs such as Cancer and Scorpio, very highly sensitive, but they don't always show it, because sometimes they've got that crusty outside that they show to the world, that they're unemotional, but they're actually deeply sensitive people, and the Capricorn, of course, being an earth sign, that might be a little bit too focused on the materialistic. I don't know if you can hear, the dog, of course, has now found its squeaky toy, so I shall move on. So when it comes to chakra association, so this is where I build a lot of my interpretation of a crystal's properties, okay? And colour plays a large part in it. So it is associated with the heart and the base chakras as a primary point. And people may not be aware, if you're not fully aware of chakras, the red, as in this image here, which is the base chakra, is often represented with the colour black as well. And of course, when we're talking about the heart chakra, there's also the higher heart chakra. So the various shades of green will link a crystal to the higher heart. Well, in this instance, with crocodile rock, this is because it's got a couple of different shades, or it comes in varying shades, that will be associated with the heart chakra and the higher heart chakra. If you're not aware, the higher heart chakra is actually where PTSD and the trauma symptoms sit. Things like panic attacks, phobia, really heightened anxiety type disorders are going to sit in the higher heart chakra, whereas the darker green, I'm actually talking about the areas for healing, okay? When it's balanced, people are not going to suffer from the conditions that I'm referring to here. When it comes to the heart chakra, though, more specifically, that's associated with love and forgiveness. The heart chakra also comes in pink, okay? But because crocodile rock, for example, is focused on the greens and the darker greens, it's going to be focused on love and acceptance of other people and forgiveness and things like that, because this is the underlying features of these colours. Of course, colour is not the only way that we can identify the properties of a crystal. Okay, colours, it plays a big part in looking at the metaphysical attributes, but it's not the only part. How it forms is also part of establishing the attributes of a crystal as well. So, for instance, when we talk about fossils, and these really old crystals, we're then looking at wisdom of the ancients and the earth star, quite often, the earth star chakra, and that one sits probably about a metre, 3 feet beneath your feet, maybe 1.5 to 3 meters beneath your feet. And so just to repeat, that's the earth star chakra, and that's usually represented by the color brown. But fossils, like the one we've got here, Kambaba Jasper, they don't have any brown in them. Well, sometimes they might. It doesn't have to be brown to be associated to the earth star chakra either, but in this instance, we know that there's fossil components to crocodile. I'm just going to call it crocodile rock, it's easier. We know that there's a fossil component to it, so therefore we know that it links into the earth energy as well as wisdom of the ancients. Now, the next thing I'm going to mention is that it is part of the microcrystalline quartz, and how do you pronounce this? Stromatolites, I think is the correct way of pronouncing it, which is ancient fossilized colonies. This is where I could be a geologist if I wanted to. I haven't done the degree. This is just based on my Googling and trying to understand it, which is why I struggle to make the pronunciations. So stromatolites apparently are ancient fossilized colonies created by cyanobacteria, which is actually blue-green algae. I know what that is, and other primeval or microorganisms. And they date back apparently about 3 billion years. How they work that out, I have no idea. Anyway, what else can I say about this? Oh, yes, the hardness, the mineral hardness scale. It's about 6.5 to 7. So it's not fragile. It's slightly, middle of the range hardness is about a number 5, right? So it's slightly higher than that. It's a 6.5 to a 7. Now, with the colours, it is green and black, but it's different shades of green and black. So the circles, the darker circles we're looking at here, if you manage to get a piece, it could be a greeny black colour or it could be a black colour. So, and then you, of course, you get the different hues of green, but tending towards an emerald type green. It is opaque. It's not transparent. You don't get it in transparent forms. It is considered to be fairly rare. It's located in Madagascar and South Africa. These are the only things that I'm aware of. If you know more, let us know. I do believe it's rare. I say rare, but there seems to be a lot of it that I'm seeing on the market, so I'm not quite sure. There's a lot of debate apparently about how it's got its name. And what else can I say? Oh, okay. So it's considered to be non-toxic and suitable for use as a elixir, which you obviously ingest, you drink. However, I would do non-immersion elixirs, which is don't put it in the water. And this is because when we're talking about fossils, there is a potential for bacteria. Well, we've mentioned it before. There could be bacteria that might lead to health implications, negative health implications. So I just wouldn't do water immersion. I'm not a big fan of crystal elixirs anyway. It's just not my, I can't even think how you would word it. It's just not something that I'm particularly drawn to do, shall we say. But everybody is different, and there are people that really like doing elixirs. So from a metaphysical overview, crocodile stone actually is a stone of love and forgiveness. This means the capacity to give more and to be open to receiving more love. Now, just a reminder that with the heart chakra, it's actually coloured pink and green, and the emerald green, of course, is related to the love that we extend to other people, and generally the pink love or the pink heart chakra, the aspect of that is one that refers to self-love and self-acceptance. And generally it's easier actually to forgive other people than it is for ourselves. So I see it more about basically healing those judgmental, unkind stuff as opposed to the deep self-acceptance, but more a deep compassion and love for all beings, all things, the environment, the world, animals, and creating a sense of inner peace and tranquility because we become more forgiving of others. We recognize that we're all perfect imperfections is a really good description. It's said to have this energy which is slow and steady as opposed to rapid, fast track healing. And when we're looking at creating changes in our environment, sometimes, and our behaviors and thoughts and that kind of stuff, changes can occur as quickly as making a decision. Enduring change is that focus on how would I say it? If we want enduring change, we've actually got to keep working towards it, maintaining that until it becomes part of our internal fabric. So if we struggle with resentment and harsh feelings, they're part of who we are right now today. And if that's something that's been there over the life path, it's long-term stuff. So the healing becomes a committed attempt. And I shouldn't say attempt, because the more we do something, the more practice we become at it, and the more it embedded as part of our character traits it can become. So that's why it would be recommended that you use if you're going to try these kind of changes, that you actually wear it every day or work with it every day. Also, so from another overview perspective, and I'm really sorry, I'm still struggling with my health a bit at the moment. It does refer to cycles. Any crystal that's got circles on it is referring to cycles, and that can be past life cycles, karmic cycles, all of that kind of thing. And so basically, it is also being a purification type crystal. And remember, this is an overview. We're going to look at it a little bit more further down in the video. It's about calming the mind, purifying the thoughts, and transmuting the negative thoughts, the ideas that keep us locked and trapped into negative cycles, transmuting those to positive and becoming more forgiving. So that's the light touch of the overview of it. Although it does have, just so to be clear here, it does carry actually physical and emotional attributes as well. So when it comes to buying tips, there's a couple. Okay, not a huge amount, but the main one is that basically you can expect the colours with the brighter greens and the greater clarity, shall we say, of the darker circles to actually draw a bigger price. And because it's rare, any crystal that's actually rare, and bearing in mind that crocodile stone is actually not a mineral, it's more of a rock, but the brighter colour they are, the better the patterns, the rarity of Kambaba Jasper is going to influence the price. So it might be fairly expensive. I haven't fully looked at the pricing of it, but I would imagine it's not going to be a cheap crystal. The other thing is that it's quite often confused with nebula stone or marketed as nebula stone, and it's worth being aware of that. I would imagine also that both of these, I'm going to call them crystals even though they're technically not, that both of them will probably share properties. In fact, I think sometimes they're called twins, but you can see here they're absolutely not twins. And once you know the difference, you see that nebula stone actually has more black and smaller dots on it than the crocodile. And this is not going to be a problem really if you're looking to buy Kambaba or crocodile rock. If you're looking to buy nebula stone, though, which is even rarer than the crocodile rock, and they're marketing Kambaba as being nebula, that means you're probably going to be paying too much for it. If you're looking for nebula and you're getting it sold crocodile rock, you'll be paying through the nose for it, and you won't necessarily be getting the nebula. You might be getting the crocodile rock. So if you're interested in nebula, just be mindful of that. It doesn't impact really so much with the nebula stone. If that was being marketed as Kambaba, then they're probably underpricing it, which works out better for you. What else can I say? Just the reason why it's going to be more expensive is there's going to be a higher demand as well, not just about the rarity. When you're looking at these very unusual rare crystals, they're going to be popular for collectors, mineralogists, if that's what you call them, and geologists who are not into the metaphysical but want the properties or want the crystal because of the way that it looks and the way it forms just as part of their general collections. The other thing that's worth remembering or is worth knowing is when you're talking about any rare crystal, then it becomes, for the fakes, it becomes lucrative, shall we say. It's more tempting for them to try and fake a crystal and then pass it off as being the legitimate. And I think when we look at these images here, it's fairly clear to see that they are fakes. They're not the genuine thing. You can see with the image on the right as compared to the genuine image, the genuine crocodile rock, that the image on the right, it's got almost a bluey colour to it. That is fake. And not only that, the black patterning tends to be on separate sides. The image in the middle is also fake, right? Because it's got that great big splotch. It doesn't have the circles. Now, what I understand is that these two fakes are often either marketed as the Kambaba crystal or jasper, and other times it might be marketed as what they call bird's eye jasper. So then the other tip from there is really, if you're importing it, make sure you do your currency conversions, check out that it is actually a reasonable price, do some comparisons. If you're buying off a platform, check out if there's any hidden fees, and also check out, as I say, the currency conversion, cost of freight, hidden fees, and just, yeah, I don't think I can really add to that. Part of trying to work out if you're getting value for money is always, regardless of the crystal, to get them to give you, the seller I'm talking about, the dimensions and the weight of the product that you're buying, because otherwise you might end up incredibly disappointed if you looked at a photograph and thought it was a big crystal and it turns out that it's actually a small one and maybe only 100 grams or something like that. And the other tip that comes to mind for me, because I realised this the other day, it was just a reminder for me, that when they take photographs of somebody holding the crystal, there's a couple of things there. If it's a big man's hand, the crystal is going to look quite small in it. But quite often what we see is the dainty little girl's hand that from, say, Chinese sellers. And because their hands are so dainty, they're quite small, and a crystal, when they hold it, actually looks much bigger than what it is when you buy it and get it put in your own hand. And a reminder too that sometimes they will oil a crystal or they will wet it so that it brings the colours out, and that's going to influence your perception of, it being vibrant in colour when it's actually not. You get it arrive and you think, oh, it's a bit dull, and this is whether or not it's the crocodile rock or not. So I've created this slide here talking about the spiritual attributes, and some of it I agree with, some of it I have a big question mark over. And one is, I'm really not sure that it would fully align the chakras, but it would certainly align at least the brow chakra down, I believe. I've also seen that some people say that it activates the crown chakra. I'm not convinced about that, because there's no white and no purple in the crocodile rock. It's got purely the green and the blue, the green and darker green or black. But I'm not saying it doesn't. I think it's something that would need to be tested because of its other attributes of being able to see see through the eyes of love. Quite likely it does. And if you channeling information from the guides and the higher realms with any level of accuracy, then the crown chakra will open with that. And because it's connected to the Earth star, I believe, Mother Nature, and those kind of properties, then it is likely that it will influence the crown chakra as well. As far as balancing the yin and yang and the masculine and feminine, the links to that would be through the heart chakra, because it's pink and green. The heart chakra is pink and green. And because it carries the properties of being less critical of others and less critical of self and non-judgment and these kind of things, which we'll be looking at in the emotional properties, that is possible. I don't rule that out. The collective and environmental consciousness comes through when we connect to Mother Earth Gaia, and because it's a fossil and because it's obviously billions of years old, and then that would actually make sense. Connecting with the ancient wisdom, the wisdom of the earth, the wisdom of the ancestors, being able to tap into ancestral family connections, which actually is about encouraging your genealogy pursuits as well. But anyway, besides that, it's said to promote prosperity and abundance and be a magnet for financial wealth. It's said to act as a protective shield. And what I liked, and the reason I've put it in here, is it's supposed to protect against workplace bullying. And I think the way it does that is by teaching a level of acceptance and going with the flow. And bullies tend to thrive on people reacting to their behaviour. It's supposed to release resistance to the flow, to going with the flow. So then you just tend to be more flexible and accepting once you've released. Gosh, I can't speak. Once you've released resistance. So, did I mention I've forgotten where I was at? Just simply the brain is fried today. Okay, it's supposed to shield against negativity, as I mentioned, shield the aura. So, that also includes psychic protection and the transmutation of negative energy within the environment through to positive and loving energy. And this, of course, leads to people to have a greater confidence when they're channeling information through, and that includes the connection to the guides and that ancestral wisdom. So, to not drag the video out, instead of going all of these in great detail, I'm just going to say it is supposed to benefit certain health conditions. But just this disclaimer here that when you work with crystals, you don't replace your medical treatment plans and actions with crystals. What you would do is use them as a complement to your current treatment, and that could be wearing them as a pendant or whatever. But it's supposed to boost the immune system and help with the absorption of things like minerals and vitamins, for the body to detoxify. And that can actually even be the release of toxins, and waste. So it can include these body organs. It's also believed to be beneficial for the conditions of your skin, hair, and nails. What I find interesting is that it's supposed to be really good for animals, especially the cold blooded ones, which is your reptiles and marine life. I've put this down as warms the blood, but I don't know really if it is a warming of the blood or simply that, because reptiles go into hibernation in the winter months. So if you put some crocodile rock, perhaps in their little terrariums or whatever, it might actually give them a bit of a health support. So, I mean, if you've got some and you've got the pets, you might want to give it a go and just let us know how that works. Where I think it's actually going to be really beneficial for is actually your respiratory system, your lung health. If you're doing meditations to try and improve your capacity to do the sacred breath, which is that holding the breath for to the count of 7, inhale, hold, exhale, hold, that kind of thing, to the count of 7, I believe it would actually be beneficial with that. Now, the other thing without going into it is when we talk about physical attributes of a crystal, wherever that chakra is placed, it's going to be all the body organs that are in the space. So if you're talking about the heart chakra, you're basically talking about your heart muscles, which is why it's supposed to be good for the blood, heart, lungs, and just whatever organs are lying behind that. If you're talking about it being good for the base chakra, then it's going to be working on basically the reproductive system. And as I say, toxic waste elimination, which we're talking about, okay, the organs that cover your prostate, anus, bowel movements, urine, all of that. So emotionally, it carries a lot of properties to improve the quality of your life, and that's expanding, first of all, your self-awareness and understanding that you have needs, that you have feelings, recognizing them when they occur, understanding your desires and what it is that you're hoping to achieve, and also recognizing within all of this that we all have our limits and we all have our talents and gifts, and knowing what yours are. Because when we know this, there becomes this promotion of the inner peace. It's said to alleviate stress and anxiety. That's higher heart chakra. Very good as a worry stone, apparently, to soothe the nerves and help a person to stay present in the moment instead of fretting about the future or getting locked in rumination, visions of the past, pain and distress. So it's said to help that. When we talk about balance and empowerment, it's this business of not seeking to control other people, yet also desiring to not be controlled by others, to have that balance of give and take. And it's said to resolve issues such as judging people and having critical attitudes towards them, especially because everybody's got their quirks, that old saying that nobody is perfect, but we're all perfect imperfections, if you like. It's also said to encourage a person to be the driver of their own destiny and recognize they've got choices. We all have choices, and we can hand our power to other people and say, oh, you make the decision, or we can actually step up, look at the options and make the choices ourselves. What else? It encourages a person to be authentic and to express themselves and their needs and the truth of who they are in authentic ways, to be confident, It's said to support emotional regulation and stabilization, and said to help calm and soothe and I guess improve clarity and focus, because when we become overwhelmed emotionally, that often translates to a difficulty processing what we're feeling. So it helps to balance that out. And as far as being judgmental and critical, I guess it becomes a case of seeing through the eyes of compassion and recognizing that, we are all on our own journey, even if we don't agree with the pathways that other people take. That's part of their development. And if it doesn't impact us, we can't actually, that's not the right phrase. There's no point getting angry at somebody else for not meeting your expectations, because it's just a waste of breath. And it just causes you emotional distress. And acceptance includes accepting people for who they are and what they are today, and that those people, even if they're not ones that you find attractive, that at some point in the future they can make a change and live a different lifestyle, same as you can. It's said to build humility and generosity of spirit and encourage this happiness. Enhances the patience and tolerance of other people. That's the seeing through the eyes of compassion. Said to heal also negative emotions such as guilt, grief, jealousy, trauma, anger, and sadness. If you've been experiencing rejection or a broken heart, if you feel that you've been abandoned by people in life, if you're feeling despairing, it supports resolving to face these problems and work through them. And this is probably why it's referred to, I'm talking about crocodile rock, as being slow and steady, because sometimes when we're surmounting these really big, long-term problems that we've had perhaps for decades, cycles and patterns, or repeating patterns, it takes a little bit of time sometimes to actually unpack it. But certainly if you want to have sustainable change, okay, you've got to go through the processes. What else have I got here? Just checking my notes. From a relationship perspective, it's said to promote healthy ones because of this acceptance and consideration of other people. I guess it comes down to healthy boundaries, where you're comfortable being who you are, comfortable to state what it is that you need, what you don't need, and to stand up and say to people, in ways where you feel natural, where it's comfortable, where it's non-confrontational. It's just like, here it is, and here am I, and this is how it's going to go for me. You got choices. You know what I mean? You don't try and force your needs on other people. That becomes what we call a transfer and projection. So that's all part of that. And because crocodile rock or crocodile stone has this energy that is not imposing, shall we say, it's a gentle energy, it's a nurturing energy. And of course, because we're encouraged to work with it daily when we're trying to create enduring change, it would be marvelous in the living areas of the house as far as converting the energy if there's a lot of conflict in it as an ornament. That would be one way to use it. Obviously, you can meditate and hold it in your hand, so it makes a great palm stone or worry stone. And then, of course, as a jewelry item, you can wear that daily and not even think about it. You can wear it as the tumbled stone, even in the macrame necklaces. That's how I wear a lot of them these days. Don't forget the worry stones. Did I mention that? They're really good. Metaphysical practitioners will find it helpful for gridding when they're working on the heart chakra. They can actually just place the crystal over the heart chakra itself. As I said before, it's great for elixirs when they're non-water immersion. That would be what I recommend because of this microbacteria that might be in it. Because it can be carved easily, as I understand it, you could wear it as the bracelets and earrings and rings and things like that. So, yeah, that's it. So if you're new to the channel, or you're somebody that I have not done a reading for at home or even online or whatever, you won't be aware that I actually keep a bowl of crystals, and I encourage people, that's one of the services that I offer, to put their hand in, basically a lucky dip, and pull out the one that their hand is drawn to. And from there, I'm able to establish a message for them based on their selection, that is obviously going to be contextual to whatever's going on. The drawing of a crystal usually happens after I've given a tarot reading. But anyway, if they put their hand in and pulled out crocodile, I would be seeing that as an indicator that they're working through some pretty deep wounds, emotional wounds, and struggling to forgive others, especially those that have betrayed them, and even have a level of intolerance rather. And so it would be about encouraging them to release this, to making that conscious decision to heal themselves and stop beating themselves up as well, especially if trauma's involved. A lot of trauma, I believe, is actually related to bad stuff having gone down, being hurt by other people, or systemic injustice or whatever, where the people that present for these readings and healings turn around and say, well, I should have known, I knew it, but I didn't respond to it. I missed the signs, all of that kind of stuff. So it becomes a case of letting go of that self-punishment and self-loathing type thoughts, so that you can go, right, okay, I didn't see it, I didn't recognize it, that's okay, I'm human, I'm a good person, there's a reason I didn't see it, and that is because I'm not that kind of personality, or I'm not malicious, or I don't do this. And there's this expectation of people to be like what we are, and they're not. So it's about, well, not everybody is. So it's about seeing the signs and trusting your gut instincts and learning from that experience, and probably more about forgiving yourself for what you perceive to be your inadequacies, so that you can move past the pain that has been inflicted by others, recognizing they're products of their environments, their life path, their experiences, and they are on that pathway to growth themselves. So basically encouraging the people to be able to see, when they to see, oh, I'm struggling with the words. Okay, to see how to take responsibility in a non-blaming and non-judgmental way of themselves too, because it's true. We are responsible for our feelings, but our feelings can reflect stuff that is out of our control, beyond our choices. And it's just a matter of going, well, I'm not going to blame them because I didn't see the signs. They are who they are. So that's accepting them, recognizing that some experiences we need to repeat until we learn the lessons, and being able to then identify risks very quickly, but keeping an open mind. And that becomes the challenge. I can certainly relate to this. I've made my own mistakes and beat myself up for it, and then having to go through that process of going, look, I understand these people are just on their pathway. The projections, the nastiness, the toxicity is actually about what's going inside of them. It's not my fault, right? And there's no point blaming them, because they can't even see what they did to be wrong or malicious, because they think they're right. End of story. That becomes about acceptance as well. So one of the key messages here, I would say, is perhaps do some learning, educate yourself on boundaries so that you can see when people are crossing your line, recognize what you need to remain healthy, stable, and well balanced, and then developing the skills and strategies to be able to assert once you recognize somebody's crossing your line in the sand, and how to do it in non-confrontational ways. And I think that's a general message, but I think it actually applies to really everything here with Crocodile Rock. So when it comes to crystal care, I actually have a video up, and I've put a link in the description where you can get information on how to store your crystals and this kind of stuff for metaphysical work. I think really just for this slide, to try and keep it low, is that it is a fairly durable crystal. It can be handled reasonably well without being scratched or broken, unless, for example, you've got the polished palm stones in this image. They will likely get scratched if you put them next to a harder crystal. Okay, so you need to be careful about things like that. Because it's a coloured rock, I would envisage, because we've got the harsh Australian sunlight, that it wouldn't be a crystal that you would put on your windowsill, especially over summer. Maybe for an hour or two if you're into doing the sunshine bathing. For people just in general, though, the rock collectors, as opposed to the metaphysical, it can cope with a wash under the water, the running water or the tap, if you like, or even a damp cloth to wipe over, especially if you've got in the environment, you've got small children that pick things up and you get sticky handprints. You could wipe it off with ease and not worry about it, or use a soft cloth. If you felt that it needed to be immersed and washed with the soapy water, you just would, as with all crystals, use a mild detergent, preferably an organic one. Rinse it off, dry it off, and it should be good to go again. You wouldn't use hot water, though. That would be the thing. And I don't think, I think a lot of people will actually take crystals off if they go swimming in the ocean or in the pool. But one of the reasons why you would take it off is because most crystals will react to chemicals, harsh chemicals, and that includes the chlorine in the pool. If you're clearing and cleansing it and trying to charge it, just check out the videos that I've got on the crystal management or the crystal magic playlist, because you'll find tips there. Otherwise, feel free to put up your own comments on how you do your clearing and recharging of them.
So my friends, that is it for this video today. I want to say thank you for being part of my journey, and sincerely apologise for being late with loading this video. I've had to stop and start a couple of times. Obviously, like I said earlier, I have moments of wellness.
That's
at the
one
moment,
of the blessings
so
that
I
I've
just
had
try
this
and
week,
work
because
within that.
obviously I've got the
In the
health
meantime,
stuff
I'm
going
going
on,
to say, look, love you,
and it's
leave
taking
you.
a little while
Have
for
a
me to
wonderful
recover
day.
from it.
Take
So
care of yourselves.
I've had to go
Stay
and see the
blessed,
doctor this
and I'll
morning,
catch you on the next
which is
video.
good.
Bye-bye for
But
now.
I'm actually now starting to burn out.
So, my friends, that is
anyway,
it
yeah,
for this
look,
video
thank you for being
today.
part of my
I
journey.
want to say
Love
thank
you,
you for
leave
being
you.
part of my
Catch you on the
journey,
next
and
video.
sincerely
Stay
apologise
blessed.
for
Take
being
care.
late with loading
Bye-bye
this
for now.
video. I've had to stop